And welcome back to another episode of Fan Behavior and F1 Podcast. I'm Zoe. I'm back with Hannah.
Hi, everyone.
What a week.
It's just...
We're laughing.
So we don't cry. New single coming soon.
I'm feeling a little bit punchy. Yes. I'm feeling, for those who don't, I don't think my mom coined it.
No, but I think it's like the definition of the word is specific to you.
Yeah. So like punchy is like when you're so, I think we've all been there. Yeah. It's delirious. You're so tired. And it's not that I'm even tired, but you're just so tired or emotionally whatever that you just are a little bit cuckoo.
Yeah.
You know, you get a little crazy.
We get punchy on trips a lot.
Punchy on trips, like at the end of your trip when you're going home or something.
Or if it's been a really hot day, and you go back to cocoon in the hotel until you go to dinner or something.
Yeah. But anyway, we're still here doing our job,
I think we've picked a really awesome sport to cover. It's just there's so many twists and turns.
Yeah, it's so welcoming to people like us. And
women.
And for that, I feel super great about it.
Hashtag blessed.
Hashtag blessed. Okay. Anyway, so a lot to get into today. Obviously, like the race is almost like third tier of the information that we have to talk about and things we have to cover. So we'll get into all of it. Should we just start off with the Christian Horner saga continues?
Yeah.
So this week we found out, I guess I should preface all of this. There's been so much information, so much has happened that I almost feel like there's probably parts of this story, everything that's transpired that we will forget to talk about or miss speaking about or details or whatever. And we obviously we've never claimed to be like a journalistic podcast. There's lots of other articles, people to follow, podcasts to listen to, where you can get a lot more of this information in better detail, and people who actually are, it's their job to cover all of this.
Yeah.
Because we got a lot of messages from people being like, where can I find this? Where can I find that? And listen, I don't mind sharing information, but also you got to go find that information for yourself too. So I just want to say that before we get into it. Okay. So the big piece of news was that, Christian Horner's accuser has been suspended, which was just a wonderful thing to see. Thoughts, feelings, concerns. I'm sorry that I keep laughing. I don't mean to keep laughing.
It's the overwhelm. It's not a funny.
This is not funny.
No, this is what being punchy is all about.
Yeah, and it's also just being like,
it's a release. It's how you're releasing the emotion and frustration.
Yes, thank you.
Through giggles and not tears.
Thank you.
So I think what's been really overwhelming about all of this is, well, the whole thing, has been overwhelming. But take all of everything else out of it. The optics that he's still on the pit wall and she's being suspended is crazy. Yeah. Is crazy.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is just annoying. And I will be very transparent with this. I know I mentioned that my manager / friend passed away. Work has been insane. Emotionally, I've been up and down, and I have not been able to dig into a lot of this stuff in the way Zoe has and the way other people have. So I have an understanding from anecdotally from talking to Zoe and reading some headlines and skimming some things. So, but please don't take anything I'm saying as total fact, because and please correct me if I misspeak about anything.
I will.
I know. So from my understanding, she was suspended for being a quote distraction.
Yeah, well, they haven't actually revealed, because of course not, and this goes to the larger issue. They haven't actually shared the reason for her being suspended. Everything is, we can't comment on this. We can't comment on that.
Yeah.
So again.
Yeah. And so this is all I'm going to say, I think, about it, because I think it's really frustrating that the person who is putting themselves as the victim in the situation, and likely is the victim, I think everything is so hidden behind a wall that it's if this is all a farce, we have no way of knowing that, because no one's put out any proof or evidence that it's not true. So I do want to just say, she might be rightfully suspended, but prove it. Tell me that she's rightfully suspended, because from where I'm sitting, you suspended the woman for sticking up for herself, and Christian is still doing his job for being abuser.
Right. Or harasser.
Yeah, harasser, excuse me. So that whole thing has been really frustrating. And I think last time we talked about this, my biggest frustration was the lack of transparency. And we got a lot of dudes and dads and Chads and Brads and losers in our comment section being like, what about innocent until proven guilty? Why does it need to be transparent? Well, because of this. Yeah. Because there's no way. I'm not saying tell me exactly what he did. I'm not saying tell me who she is. Give me a detailed list of every time he harassed her. I want to know what the misconduct is, because saying misconduct opens so many doors of opportunity for people to throw in rumors of what it was. I mean, we could have been talking about assault. Like, I don't know what we're talking about. And not that this is, it's all bad, but be transparent about that. And then when, again, with this happening, she's been suspended. Why? Because, and in fairness, if she was suspended because this has been legitimately proven to be a false allegation, then Christian deserves for people to know that that's the truth. Yeah. But if she's suspended because she's a distraction and she came forward, she shared her truth, she was really brave to do something like that, and it is true, but she's suspended because, she's just causing too much drama, then shame on Red Bull, and everybody should know that, and Christian Horner should leave immediately. Yes, exactly. I think, what we said last week still is true, which is the lack of transparency is the biggest issue in this. And, when talking to my dad a lot about this, and he did say, the biggest thing he said was, and I agree, this has been handled by Red Bull like a sexual harassment case would have been handled in the 70s. Yeah. It's and they're acting like we're stupid. Right. We're just going to be they did an independent investigation and everything's fine. So we're just going to move along. We're smarter than that. We understand. We know how this has gone down before and how people and companies have swept things under the rug and have kept powerful people in power and have punished the non-powerful person. We're not dumb. So you can't act like this is the 70s where we'll be like, okay, sure, this is fine. We deserve transparency. And I was going to say, we've not always been the biggest Zach Brown people and over the course of our time as fans. But I do have to say he's been one of the very, very few people in the F1 paddock who has actually said something meaningful. And I felt actually was because, okay, do we expect these team principals, drivers to come out and be like, Christian's a terrible person? Of course not. I don't think any of us expect people to be so heavy-handed in their responses. Especially because they have the same level of information we have, which is little. Right. And also there's, there's risks of defamation or other things like that. I don't think anybody expects anyone to come out and be completely heavy-handed with their statement. But I was going to say what Zach Brown said because I thought it was right. He said, as our regulator, the FIA have the responsibility and authority to make sure everyone in F1 is conducting themselves in a way that's appropriate to the sport's values, both on and off track. I just hope that the FIA has full transparency. Exactly. Thank you, Zach. That's exactly. But you know who's going to listen now? The boys, because Zach said it. So that's fine. Listen to Zach. But there needs to be transparency. It's crazy. Yeah. And so it's just been really disappointing. And I think also there's a behind the scenes of all of this within Red Bull. I mean, there's so many things happening, but the biggest thing is there is a power struggle at play here. So for those who don't know, and I don't have all the specifics on this, but essentially Red Bull is the company, the ownership is divided by Thai ownership and then Austrian ownership. The Thai ownership has 51% control of the company. The Austrian ownership has 49% control of the company. So obviously the Thai ownership has the leverage. Yeah. Christian Horner has the support of the Thai ownership. The Austrian ownership actually were the ones, apparently from what I've read, when this allegation first came forward, wanted to fire him. But because of his relationship with the Thai ownership, and they wanted to keep him, obviously, majority rules. And so that's why you're having this power struggle behind the scenes. The Verstappens, Helmut Marko, other people in charge at Red Bull,
And that's what's going on behind the scenes, and that's why Christian Horner has not been let go. And back to your point about the employee being suspended, because a lot of people were like, well, maybe she should be suspended because it's a distraction, as you mentioned. And then I'm like, okay, well then why wasn't Christian Horner suspended throughout any of this investigation?
That's another piece that I was talking about with some of my friends yesterday, is it's like, to me, if an investigation like this is happening, like, I agree that he shouldn't just be fired because allegations made, like, but when it all came forward and the investigation started, he should have been put on leave.
Yes.
Because he shouldn't be around while all this is going on, because it just leaves room for too much behind the doors
speculation,
stuff,
and
it's
kind
just
of stuff. I completely agree.
I don't know. I just think, I mean, the other piece that's, I mean, to your point, being like they're treating like this like the 70s, like everybody with a phone thinks they're a journalist, you know? So it's like, when I say transparency, I just like want to be abundantly clear that like that does not negate the confidentiality that's important in this. Like, I think you can have both. You can be confidential and you can be transparent, and that's not happening. I mean, the confidentiality has been isn't happening, but there's no transparency. And not that, you know, Red Bull, I don't think Red Bull was the one who released her name, was it? It came out.
No,
so it's not the company's fault, but I don't remember my train of thought because I'm so irritated now, which is fine. But I just think that
it's just been handled
to do better.
So poorly.
With the phones, it's just like everyone, because there's all of this room for speculation, people are speculating. And I think it's our like human nature to go to like the worst possible thing. Like, okay, so she was suspended, so she must be either lying, which is a whole other problem, or, which I think is where most people are leaning, is the optics of this have proven that she's in trouble for telling the truth.
Yeah.
And how dare she out someone like Christian Horner when he, you know, when she had such a good job and this, that, and the other. And it's just,
I mean,
bad.
And she's unfortunately, again, like, because this is how it often goes, it's like she's probably never going to work in motorsport ever again, or if she does, it's gonna have to be, you know,
because she causes problems,
or it's just it's a distraction, it's a disruptance, it's gonna cause this, it's gonna cause that, and it's just a classic. I mean, it's a story as tale of its time. We see it all the time. It's nothing new. And the other thing too, people have brought up too, which I think is a great point, like if and we obviously still don't know, no one's confirmed whether or not these text messages are real or fake, but you don't see Red Bull coming on saying
they're not real,
this is, you know, fake, blah 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 blah. So that just makes you think.
Well, it also makes you think when you find out who maybe allegedly
apparently
leaked them.
He refuted that, or he said
I'm sure he
doesn't know how to use technology.
Well, I'd actually believe that.
But the other thing I was going to say about this all, and then we'll get into, because this episode's going to be a long one probably, but so I've been through, I told Hannah this before we started recording. I've been through 2 stages of grief. First was anger and then depression. But the thing that kind of angered me, and it was almost an irrational anger, because I wasn't actually angry at the people who said this, but it was more of just like a, what's the word? Like a effect
projection
of this.
Oh, uh-huh.
So like when all this stuff was coming out, and, you know, Christian stuff with the drivers were saying, we got a lot of people reaching out to us being like, I really hope you talk about this. Like, you guys need to talk about this on the podcast, which I agree. Like, yes, we should. But then I was like, are these people, and again, if you were one of those people who did that, like, I'm not mad at you. Like, I agree it's important to discuss this, but I was like, are F1 male podcasters getting flooded with messages asking them to make sure that they talk about this stuff? Or are like, because if we came on here right now and we didn't talk about it, we kind of like said, oh, there's this stuff going on, okay, let's move on to the race, you know, people would be upset with us.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's rightfully so, wrongfully so, but there's an expectation when you are
when you have a platform,
but also when you, as women, and this is an incident involving a woman, there's an expectation on you to speak out about it, right? It's like the burden falls on you. You hear this a lot about like people of color when there's like a, you know, police brutality thing. It's like, okay, the expectation is that they have to come out and speak out about this because it's affecting them. But then they're always like, well, where are the white people talking about
right.
this? You know what I mean? Like, it's not just my responsibility. Like, we need everybody else to talk about it too, especially if you want things to change, be different.
Yeah, because how many times have women had this conversation?
Right.
Like, so many times. And so, like, James Coker is the perfect example of
great.
someone who is constantly talking about, he is an ally and he deserves an award. I love him. And I'm not saying that there aren't other ones. He's the first one that comes to my mind.
Well,
but
he's the most vocal.
Yeah, and it's a good point because it's like, you know, in the paddock, you have Lewis.
Yeah. Literally,
like
Lewis.
You know that Lewis is never not going to say something when he needs to say something.
Yes.
Change can't happen with one person.
Yes.
It starts.
Yes.
It helps to have said person involved, but like, we can talk about this until we're blue in the face, but the people who are listening who can quite honestly make the changes think that we are full of shit or this girl was lying and so that we shouldn't even be having this conversation and we don't know what we're talking about. Okay.
Well, and then also too, it's like, and it's the truth. Like, unfortunately, in this sport too, the male podcasters who have a platform, like, they get more people to tune into their show than we do. And I'm not calling out anyone specifically, and I'm not like, you know, I understand all these things. It's a tricky thing. It was just this anger, like, why is it always on us to have to talk about this stuff, and why is it always put onto us, and the expectation is on us, and it's never on the men. It's never on the men, and that just irritates me.
Yeah.
So go, you know, if you're someone who listens to a male F1 podcast, message them, ask them to talk about this stuff too, because
retweet.
We can't do it alone. Okay. So then, of course, all the drivers get asked about these things, and they all, aside from Lewis, have terrible answers. Now, there's many different caveats to this whole discussion. Well, so let's just go over some of these things. So in the press conference, one of the press conference groups was asked about this stuff going on with Red Bull and Valtteri and Lance and Nico specifically, where basically the gist of their answers were, we're just here to drive. This doesn't involve us. It's not our problem. Doesn't involve us. Okay. Not great. Then you have Daniel and Alex being asked various questions about Red Bull, what's going on with Red Bull, and then both sort of saying, well, it's just noise, it's distractions. Now, I will say, because again, there's so many different ways to look at this. And also Lando too was asked a similar question, had a similar answer about basically like, it doesn't involve us. It's just like, we're just here to drive, whatever. Okay. First thing is, I don't condone any of what the drivers have said. Like, they've all had terrible answers. Okay.
Yeah.
They've all, I'm not excusing what they've said. It's bad. It's not a great look. They should have handled it better. Lewis, again, had a great answer and I think what most people expect or should expect is you can say everyone deserves to be treated fairly and feel safe in the paddock, but our focus here this weekend is to go out and drive. You can say both things, but you can
acknowledge the reality,
that, like, you know, it's important that everyone feels safe. You don't have to be like, and that's just a very generalized statement. You're not really like, that's not really making a claim on anything, because it's true. Everyone should feel like they're safe to work in this space, but no one else was really saying that except for Lewis. But I also want to say too that the journalists also have been framing these questions, because the truth is, of course, the Christian Horner allegations and what's gone on with him has been like the catalyst for everything else that's transpired. And that is a massive part of what's happening. But there's also all this other stuff going on. The Jos Verstappen, Christian Horner thing. Is Max going to go to Mercedes? The power struggle behind the scenes. Is Ford going to leave? All these other things are happening. So the journalists are framing these questions as this stuff with Red Bull or all these things going on. And then the drivers are then responding as noise, distraction, whatever. I'm not saying they should say those things or have answered those questions in that way. But I've seen a lot of people being like, Daniel, Alex say sexual harassment allegations are noise. Well, the question wasn't, are the sexual harassment, that wasn't in the question.
Yeah.
So again, I'm not
And that's the thing.
I'm not excusing what they said, because
Yeah.
they should have and could have phrased everything better. But if you're a journalist who wants to ask about that specifically, then ask about that specifically. Like, be more clear with your language. Everyone, drivers, journalists, because then it creates this, like, it's a terrible look.
Yeah, well, it's a terrible look. Headlines are always so messy because they're almost always taken out of context. Like, my dad was reading a headline last night. He read it out loud. Queen Elizabeth catches fire. And I looked at him and I was like, Dad, she's not with us anymore. And he looked at me like he had kind of forgotten that happened. And then he clicks on the article and it's the boat. Oh, so it's like, okay, but everything is about, and I know there are amazing journalists out there, but everything is about clickbait.
Yeah.
You need a good headline to reel you in. So you ask a vague question, you get a garbage answer, and now you can spin it. And often a lot of people are not either reading the whole article and they take the headline as truth, or the context is lacking in the article. And it's only because you watch the video of the press conference that you know that the question that was asked was vague.
Yes.
And it's really frustrating. And it's like putting them, like, I don't know. I always get kind of on the fence too with situations like this in like large team settings or group settings. It's like, why are we asking Lando about Red Bull? We can ask Lando, I guess, about the accusation or like his thoughts on like the specific scenario, but to this Red Bull stuff, it's a list of 100+ items that we're talking about. Right. So the vagueness of it is bad. And you know, for them too, like we joke, sometimes they don't even know all the rules of this damn sport that they're participating in.
Which is a problem. I mean, that's on them.
I totally agree. But I think part of it too, that it's just like some of them have a lot of knowledge and some of them have the amount of knowledge that they get in the briefing that they have with their PR people. Yeah.
And so again, and I want to just make this crystal clear. I was very disappointed to see how these drivers responded. I think it was honestly really upsetting and like depressing to hear how basically they don't seem to give a shit about what's going on. And then this all then escalates, because then it becomes my the person I'm a fan of is better than the person that you're a fan of, or I'm going to make excuses for the driver that I like and how they worded their question, and I'm going to then attack this other driver because then it became this whole war. And also people being, and I feel like, first of all, if your driver hasn't said anything about it, you cannot expect that they would have a better answer.
That's so true.
You know, there were a handful of people who either just didn't get asked the question specifically or haven't opened their mouth, but that doesn't mean that they would have responded any better than the drivers who did open their mouths. You know what I mean? And I think we have to remember, because a lot of people are also now kind of in this point where they're sort of questioning. I think everyone's having a bit of an existential crisis about like, what is this sport that I'm a fan of? Who are these people that I'm a fan of? And do my values align with theirs? Do they care about me as a woman? You know, and so everyone's kind of like reeling about it. And I think it's important to remember these are 20 extremely privileged, rich, mostly white men who honestly don't give a fuck about what goes on for most of the world. That's just the truth, okay? And we don't know them. They don't know us. So anytime you're a fan of anyone or anything, like you have to go into that with that kind of mentality. Like you don't really know this person. And so they're not your, like, you can't be so, I don't know what the word is I'm looking for.
Well, people get very defensive of their character, but it's like, but the character that we know,
we don't really know.
We don't really know.
Yeah. And then people are like, how can I, can I continue on being a fan of this person? How do I reckon with this? Right. And I think, listen, it's gonna be different for every single person. And maybe a certain person's comments really, it's like enough is enough and you can't go forward, and that's okay. I think also we're losing sight of like, I don't think anything, and this is my own personal opinion, like I don't think anything that the driver said were like cancelable offenses where it's like they're done forever. But I do think a person's character is revealed over the course of time and over certain, instances. And you have to judge for yourself what you, like how much of that you can handle or how much of that you can excuse. And And I also think too, because I've been also thinking a lot about how like we're all hypocrites, you know, in this world, and especially as a sports fan. Like we just watched a race that took place in Saudi Arabia.
Yes, we
did. Know, where human rights are basically non-existent. You know, title sponsors of Formula One are owned by governments that are terrible. Okay. You could look into the States too. We race in Texas and Florida, you know, not places that are necessarily the most like welcoming and kind to women. I'm an NFL fan. I love football, but pretty much every single football team has a player who's been convicted or accused of domestic violence, of sexual assault.
And still gets to play.
And we sit there on Sundays and we cheer and we root. And I'm sure many people listening to this do the same thing, right? And I would never want to support someone or be friends with someone who has been accused of domestic violence. And yet here I am cheering them on, you know? And so it's just a great reminder that like this exists in everything we do, popular media, movies, music. It's like, if you're gonna, I think it's just take inventory of everything that you support and question it, but also remind yourself that, it's like, we don't know these people and they're not gods and they're just men.
Yeah.
And men often disappoint. And that's just kind of that on that. I don't know. And I do want to say, like, if people are, because we got also a lot of messages from people being like, where did this person say that? And how can I see this? And Twitter's a great place where you can find these clips and quotes and whatever. It was just disappointing. And we, you know, I hope people, and I don't ever want people to like say things just to say things either. Like I want someone to say something because they actually believe it and they actually like feel convicted to say it. So anyway, I don't know if that was I felt like that was a bit all over the place, but
because we're frustrated.
That's
how you talk when you're frustrated. You know,
you're just kind of
just in general,
all over the place. Yeah. Again, we're like 30 minutes into this and we haven't even gotten to the race, but there's still more things to talk about.
I mean, the race wasn't
it's fine. Then you have the FIA president, Mohammed bin Sulayem, being accused of interfering with race results from last year. And this is just like what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah, but do you want to know how shocked I was? Not at all. Not at all. None of this has shocked me. Not one
bit. Because again, men disappoint every single time. They're all losers.
It was like, oh, he interfered with the race result. I'm like, of course he did.
Yeah, so for those who missed it, a whistleblower, curious, not that we need to know who this person is, but
love her.
Or him, yeah. Yeah. We'll see who this person is.
What a distraction.
Yeah, we'll see who this person is. Maybe we won't. But basically came out, there was an article in the BBC that, so he, in Saudi Arabia last year, for those who forgot, Fernando Alonso at the end of the race got a 10-second, he finished the race in P3, but then he got a 10-second time penalty because he had a 5-second penalty they started to work on the car prior to the 5-second penalty being over. He then got dropped down to P4. George got promoted to P3. I remember this whole thing going down. And then after the race was over, Aston Martin apparently like appealed this penalty and like showed examples of other times when people were doing this, whatever. And then the results got switched back again. And then Fernando actually got his P3 and George got P4. And I think it was the thing where like, do you remember when Mercedes like
yes,
buckled in the trophy and they drove it back to Aston Martin? Like that was funny content.
Yeah.
But like, yeah. So this person has claimed that that he interfered to reinstate Fernando Alonso's P3. It's just, I mean, first of all, this is like anyone, and I don't mean to bring up, 2021 Abu Dhabi, but it just goes into everything. It's like, this is all fucking bullshit and fake and dumb anyway.
Yeah.
And anyone who's like, this is the other thing. This is the other anger part that I was going to go off of. People that comment on our stuff and message us that are like, Drive to Survive fans ruined this sport. This sport was a real sport before you got into it.
This sport's insane.
You're ruining it with your thirst traps and your whatever. It's like, these people are ruining the sport. These people are literally ruining the sport
from the inside
and the integrity of the sport. And we're just here posting on
having
our little
a good
TikToks.
time. And I'm sorry, but the thirst traps are coming from inside the team.
Yeah, but don't come
from inside the house.
Don't come at me saying that I'm ruining your sport when there's literally people that are in charge of the sport that are ruining the sport. Like, it's baffling. It's baffling. It's the drivers. It's the principals.
It's giving corruption.
It's giving corruption.
Like, we're in a Bond movie.
Yeah, it's fucking ridiculous.
Well, not us, but the sport. we don't belong in a Bond movie.
No one gets. I will literally laugh in your face if you ever comment that on anything we post ever again, and I'm going to say, go home.
Yeah, you're just here because the drivers are cute. Honestly, it's all I've got going for me right now.
Yeah, because their insides suck. Their personalities are terrible. Yeah, except for a select few. And
didn't that article say that like the teams knew that it was true?
Oh, did
also?
they? I don't know.
Again, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Or that they may have assumed that happened. Anyway, that was just
he got paid off.
So and my question is why? Why does he feel inclined to help out Fernando or Aston Martin? That's the other question part of it, which is
I'm
why
going with
Lawrence Stroll.
Yeah,
I don't want to.
I know.
We're not putting anything out there.
If I was writing a movie script,
we have no idea.
If I was writing a movie script, it would seem like an interesting plot line that the owner of a team might give some sort of incentive to the person in charge of said sport. Yeah. I don't know.
We're just writing a
plot.
novel.
Yeah. It's just a plot.
It's fiction.
Yeah. We've all seen the film.
Yeah. So anyway, that was fun. So this week
sometimes
has just been...
films are based on a true story, though.
Sometimes they are. Yeah. Or when that's like inspired by.
True events. Yeah. Inspired by true events.
Yeah, exactly. So another great, notch in F1's belt. And, this is just
what are we doing?
This is like they say no more teams can come into Formula One. We don't want you. Our sport is great and we don't need Andretti. And then all this shit happens. It's like BFFR. Okay, now where are we? I don't even have time to get in all of this.
So long to figure out what BFFR meant. Yeah. I've seen it. I've read it. I knew what it was, but my brain is broken at the moment.
I'm going to get to Helmut Marko. Basically, people thought Helmut Marko was going to get suspended by Red Bull. People then thought he was the one who leaked the Google Drive, even though he's like 80 years old. And then Max was asked to basically
might not have like hit share, but he could have paid someone
orchestrated.
To.
And then Max was asked about this, and Max was like, well, if Helmut's gone, then basically like that's going to be a problem for me. And then it was basically by the start of the race on Sunday, it was resolved. Helmut's sticking around. Things are good for
thank God, because
and also like
I'm
Jos Verstappen, Helmut Marko, like these are not heroes in our story. These are also terrible men.
Yeah, villains.
Like, lest we not forget,
one of them has been convicted.
Yeah, and the other one is racist, basically. Has said racist things,
and he's been convicted in the court of public opinion. But the other one was convicted in the court of law.
So anyway.
What a time.
On to better news. Let's just get to the race.
Okay. Yeah, that's better.
Yeah. So it's not even happy, but it was a good story. Not the Carlos Sainz part of it, but Carlos Sainz, it was sick. He left media day feeling ill. He comes back
like the
ill in his stomach. He comes back for practice. He does practice 1 and 2, but was still feeling sick. And then the day of qualifying, FP3 finds out he has appendicitis. He's going to have surgery. And who gets to step in but little British boy Ollie Bearman, who is just...
What a doll.
My son.
And I love his dad.
I know.
He's hot.
I know.
And just so
that's
sweet.
The age we're at
yeah,
now.
it is the age we're at. Because I was like, wow, if I was younger, even... Because Ollie's 18,
he's so
right?
cute.
He's precious, but like, I know if I was younger, I'd be like... obsessed, but I can't be.
Yeah. He's like a boy band.
Totally.
Like he looked just such like a boy band member.
Speaking of the Anne Hathaway movie.
Oh, I know.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's cute. David is hot. And I am terrified about what this appendectomy will mean for the rest of the year.
Yeah, we'll get to Ollie's performance, but that was a crazy like shit. Okay, we got, fresh
he did
blood.
So well.
Let's just get to qualifying. We're going to breeze through this race.
Yeah, so, I mean, I skimmed qualifying.
Alpine
I watched
was
it,
terrible.
Yeah.
Once again.
Yep. So was
Ollie
Kick or Salvo or whatever what do we call them?
Well, Joe crashed in FP3 and they tried to repair his car in time for qualifying, but they didn't make it in time, and so he didn't even get to
Oh, I missed that.
qualify. Yeah.
Whoopsies.
And very strong qualifying from Yuki. He did great, got into Q3, which got me points because I had Yuki this year or this year. I'm only getting points for my drivers in qualifying. They fail me in the race.
I mean, to be fair, I have a 7-time world champion this week.
He's also been
failed
failing
me a bit. So.
I was going to say Ollie almost out-qualified Lewis. Very, very close to coming to out-qualifying him. And then speaking of Lewis, this is the 4th race in a row that George has out-qualified Lewis. And it's interesting because I think there's certain drivers, we've said this before, who are not, like, qualifying is not their strength, you know? Like, I think George is very good at qualifying. Yuki, another person very good at qualifying. Charles Leclerc, very good at it. But it's still Lewis Hamilton. You know, it's a little bit curious, like, why he is.
I feel like this has been happening for a long time. Like, it felt like it's like, I know that points wise, Lewis was better than George last year, but I feel like there's been many a race that George is better than Lewis, and I find it confusing.
Yeah, and I think part of it is, and when we get to the race, Lewis is on a terrible strategy, or like his, you know, him and Lando and some other people, like but and I think part of it might be Lewis is a little bit checked out.
Sure.
But interesting. That's basically it from qualifying. I don't know. Max got pole. Congratulations to him. Who cares? Do you have anything else to add from qualifying?
No.
Okay, the race. So just to really rub it into Alpine's face,
Justice for Almar.
Pierre Gasly DNFs on the formation lap. We love a good DNF. I mean, right now,
Did you win this?
Huh?
Did you win? Didn't you say the first DNF would be Alpine?
Oh,
I think you did.
Did I?
I think I had Haas. I was worried it was going to be Ferrari, but I said
it was the first DNF. You are so right. I didn't even think about that.
It was the first thing I thought of.
No, I did not think about that. My dad.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks. I'm so glad it was Pierre.
Yeah.
My dad and I played this game, which I think we should do going forward during the race, where so we had to predict the podium, but we had to get it in the correct order. So like because I said Max, Charles, and Checo would be 1, 2, 3, but it was Max, Checo,
lost.
Charles. So like that didn't count.
No, I agree. It always has to be in order.
Then we predicted 3 people we thought would DNF, and if we got any of those right, we'd win. I said Daniel, Ollie, and Logan, and my dad said Logan, Esteban, and Joe, I think. But right when I turned it in, I was like, I want to put Lance down. Like I was like, shit, and I should have.
Yeah.
And then we also predicted how many hat touches Max was going to have.
How many hat touches did he have yesterday?
He had like 4.
It was funny. I got panicked to count for you guys, but then I was like, oh, I'm watching 5 hours later, so you already know.
And then also we do Charles Leclerc face touches.
Oh, okay, yeah, because he does a lot of rubbing.
Touch the face, whatever. So anyway, it's fun. It keeps it fresh and fun. Because you know nothing else is really fresh. So yeah, Pierre DNFs, whatever. Alpine sucks.
And Anthony Joshua was there wearing Pierre's hat, and Pierre wasn't there.
But you know what? Probably better for him. Like
for sure,
he's going to be terrible anyway. Probably
rather
not get
be
points.
a gearbox issue that like and then, he can't. It's not his fault.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Lando jumped the start. Did you see that?
I did. Yeah.
And it was weird. He didn't get a penalty, but he so clearly jumped the start.
But see, I've never seen this come up. So if they jump this, is it if he gets out of his grid box? But did he? Because we never actually saw that he got too far forward.
I think he did. I could be wrong. Obviously, they didn't penalize him, so clearly they found some way to.
Because I only saw it from the dash cam view and then from like George's view, but it never actually showed if he got in front of
that's a good point.
The box.
Very strange. And it's funny because he'd said in his interview post-qualifying, like, how are you going to, I can't remember the question. It was like, how are you going to beat so-and-so? And he said, jump the start.
Well, at least he's honest. Man of integrity.
Which is funny. There was a nice little Mercedes McLaren battle going on. Yeah. Oscar, Lewis, Lando. Lando and Lewis were not on. There was a safety car, obviously, at like lap 9 because of Lance. He lost his tire and that was so funny when he was like, "I'm in the fucking wall."
Can you make it back? No, I'm in the fucking wall.
That was good.
Yeah, it was good.
That was good. So then most people start to pit. because they're going to change the, because they basically at that point they could go on to a hard set of tires and ride that out for the rest of the race. But then, whenever this happens, teams are having to like either double stack their people, and it can cause chaos. And like we saw, Daniel had like a minute long pit stop.
When I tell you, I was like, I forgot Daniel was driving until the end when they finally showed his dash cam because they knew people wanted to see him.
Yeah, well, not so much anymore. People are pissed at Daniel these days.
Yeah. Are they?
Well, yeah. I mean,
just because he's not driving well?
No, well, yeah, but also like his comments and everything he said and everything like that. He's kind of in the doghouse currently.
Woof woof.
But so some drivers did not pit, like Lewis, Lando, and so they had to basically Joe and Hulk. And let's get to the Kevin Magnussen defense of his life.
That was fun.
That was crazy.
He basically said, "Fuck my race. I'm
but it
gonna
was a
help
little bit. It was chaotic as fuck. He racking up penalties left and right, and people did say, and I do agree with it. It's like it's a little bit. I don't know if they're ever going to change the rules that like he can drive like that, and then it still benefits his team. Like it wasn't. He wasn't really. He was punished, but like he was doing it only in defense of his team.
Right.
And so the only way they ever get around it is if they force you to serve a penalty when you get the penalty. Like you have to serve it like within the next lap.
Yeah. Right. And
yeah. Because otherwise, But yeah, I mean, holding up Yuki, that whole pack, it was like Yuki, Alex, Esteban were just like couldn't do anything. They were stuck.
Yeah.
Which was crazy. Yuki had again, whenever a driver is on my team, they just like shit the bed in the race, but he was just trundling down the and I think that RB was like not good this week.
Clearly.
Daniel had like some setup issue problems, and they said they found some issues after qualifying, but they obviously couldn't fix it because it's in Parc Fermé. And Yuki started the race in 9th and finished in 14th. Like, yikes. It was not a great week for them, so hopefully they get their shit together. But it was fun seeing, and it probably was fun for Kevin because he's like, this isn't about me anymore. I can just like do whatever the fuck I want, and I'm just gonna help out Nico, and he got a point.
Yeah.
So
and this was genuinely, I was telling Zoe before we started recording, like this was a race that I actually forgot about Max until the end.
Yeah.
And Checo.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of battling going on. I don't know. I just like first place just feels so irrelevant.
Yeah, I mean it is at this point. But let's talk about Ollie Bearman.
What a doll.
He did such a great job.
Yeah.
So impressive. Just
P7, right?
P7, very strong result for him. I do feel like we also have to be a little bit, cautious or whatever, because we went through this thing with Nick DeVries, who also got points on his
all I'm
debut.
Saying is it's impressive that on his debut he did a
great job. Very
job.
Inexperienced.
And cool that like it's been a long time since Ferrari was the team that hosted someone's debut.
He's the youngest Ferrari driver ever to have his
That's crazy.
debut race. And what's crazy is so F2 was also racing in Saudi this weekend, and he had gotten pole position. And
it was cute. There was a video of like some of his F2 friends like
watching
him.
And then all the drivers were so nice. I saw like a bunch of onboards of like Lewis and Lando and some other people like giving him thumbs up and waving to him like during the cool down lap. And then Lewis went up to him after the race, and
classic.
Yeah, because it's the only man we can trust in this economy.
And then Charles had some nice words in the
very nice words.
Interview.
Also, and then Carlos showed up for the race
limping.
I know. I'm like, dude,
you have an incision.
Home. I know.
It's not that serious.
Shuffling.
But the picture of him and his dad, and then his dad and his grandpa is wild. His dad is a spitting image. Like they're all just gonna like keep duplicating.
I know. It's like so his son's gonna have an appendectomy too, I guess.
Yeah, but Carlos Sr. looked exactly like whatever his father's name is.
Yeah.
Carlos the first? I don't know how it works.
I think Carlos Sr. is the first.
Yeah. Still got to figure out where Carlos Dos is in the equation.
Yeah. He was there too.
No, I know he was there. He's always there. Vamos. I love him. He's so sweet.
Is he?
I don't know. It's sweet when he's cheering on Carlos.
It is. Yeah. We
Carlos
love
Jr.
cousin love on this podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, just I was really happy for Ollie. He's just adorable, and I definitely think he's going to get one of the Haas seats.
Yeah,
next year. He already he did FP1 for Haas last year, one or two times. One time I think. I think he already has some Haas FP1 sessions lined up for this season, and it just seems like Kevin and Nico, like, they're fine. But I don't think anyone's like, oh, we need to have KMag or like I think like they'd be willing to like get this 18-year-old kid in the seat. And
are both their contracts up or just Kev's?
I think both of theirs are up.
I don't know. It makes me sad.
I mean, it's
Kevin was like one of the first driver that I know,
which
is so random. But I don't know if he would do it, but like I think Kevin would be great in IndyCar.
Oh, for sure. He'd be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. So anyway, that's
Kev, go to IndyCar. Also, side note, people listen because did you see how many of the boys were with the F1 Academy girls?
We're going to get to Academy after this. Don't worry, guys. Yeah, for those who have wondered, we will have a whole section for F1 Academy. But yeah, he's just a precious angel gem of man.
Yeah, super sweet. And again, David.
Yeah. So I'm excited for him to be on the grid. So, because I don't feel like any of the drivers are like my sons. I don't feel quite, maybe slightly Yuki. I feel it's a little bit like son energy to me.
Yeah, Yuki's been son energy for you. You used to call him your son.
I did.
Are you joking? Roll the tapes, dude.
Okay. Well, yeah, but like
Ollie's on this,
Ollie's
guys.
really my like he'd be like
because
really
he's 18.
my son. Like he's just like got such a baby face. I mean, Yuki does as well.
He's precious. I forgot that Freya met him in Austin last year. I saw her post that picture. It was cute.
So congrats to Ollie.
Yeah, the other sometimes I write some of the driver quotes down.
Yeah.
And when Lando, he said, "Little kiss to the wall." And I thought that was funny.
Also, I was waiting for Yuki when he was in his battle with KMag. I was like, Yuki's got to be
very relaxed.
He just said such dangerous driving. Facts, but honestly facts.
Yeah, I know, but jaw on the floor.
Yeah.
He was so
calm.
I was so proud of him.
Good job. He's taken some breathing. But I was worried because Daniel came out of his pit stop because it was like an hour long and he was out in last and then kind of like was getting through some people or maybe like just one person.
Only one because two people were already out.
Yeah, and then
because he got 17th, right?
16th.
Okay.
But then as Yuki was like coming down as he was getting past, they were starting to get closer and closer together. I was like, oh shit, are we gonna have another?
Just leave it.
Yuki
no one's getting
Daniel
points.
Moment?
Just hang on.
Yeah, we're fine.
Yeah. And then Danny spun out.
I know,
which was random.
I know. I was looking at his interval thing, and I was like, he was like a second maybe behind Logan. All of a sudden, he was like 11 seconds. I was like, what? He said he just like lost concentration because
he was irritated,
I guess,
thinking about what he said at the press conference.
Yeah, too much noise. You know?
Gross.
Anything else?
Well, I was just gonna say, and this might be controversial, and I'm willing to say it out loud, but during the podium ceremony, they showed Jerry, and I know that the way that Christian and Jerry started their relationship is very controversial, but I do want to say, I feel, regardless of like what the facts are of this story, I really feel for her.
Yeah.
I feel terrible that she has to go show face. And I mean, he was like, had his arm around her back, and
PR 101
was just like, she just looked a little dead behind the eyes. She was just like, I can't believe you're making me do, like, just putting me through all of this.
Yeah.
And I mean, she's a mother and like trying to keep a family together. And again, I recognize it was shifty from the start, their relationship, but their relationship is theirs now, and I feel sad for her.
Yeah.
So that's all.
Anyway, on to better, more important things. F1 Academy raced their first race this weekend, which was, the first two races, which was so great. As you mentioned, we had said from last year in Austin, why is Lewis Hamilton and George Russell the only two drivers going into the F1 Academy paddock? This is lame as hell.
And I don't know if we mentioned this at the time, but when I tell you that it was 15 steps from the F1 Academy paddock to the F1 paddock, I'm not kidding.
Yeah, literally 15
So it's not
steps.
like it was like out of their way.
Yeah.
They didn't have to take golf carts.
They actually had to, it's when they come to enter the paddock, they
had to walk past
They
it.
take a right to go to the F1 paddock, but they could have taken a left to go to the academy. I mean,
literally been inside the academy paddock. I mean, it's across the.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But a lot of drivers did show up and support. We saw Charles Leclerc with the Ferrari drivers, obviously Lewis and George, Toto Wolff, came around, Lando. A couple showed up like on the actual race day. I think Daniel and Yuki. I'm probably forgetting some people, and I don't want to not forget people, but it was nice to see. I'm glad that they did that. We got a lot of people asking where they could watch Academy stuff. So everything's on YouTube. If you go to the F1 Academy channel, you can watch qualifying, the races, all there. So if you're ever, for the next race is going to be in Miami, you can check that stuff out there. There's also a really great explainer video on the channel that kind of tells you each of the drivers, who they are. And also I think it's important to say too, so while every driver is, there's I think 16 drivers in Academy, but there's 10 of them that are racing with F1 liveries, but they're not associated with the team. There's 5 Academy teams, but they're not like F1 teams.
Yeah.
They're different teams. And then each team has 3 drivers. And then 10 of those drivers have F1 liveries. Okay. So they're like associated with the team. So it's like
their main sponsors, Mercedes, kind of?
Basically. Okay. Yes, exactly.
So kind of like IndyCar, how the same team will have different liveries for the different sponsors.
Yes, exactly. And so it kind of breaks down, this explainer kind of breaks down each of the different teams, who's on each team, whatever. But the star of the show is this woman, Mercedes livery driver, Doriane Pin. Now, her name is French, and I've heard people say Pan, like Doriane Pan, like it's like Charles Leclerc. We'd say Leclerc, not Leclerc. But I've also heard people say, like Americans or like English-speaking people would say Pin. So if anyone out there, how should we be pronouncing it? Pin or Pan? Let us know. I don't want to be incorrect, but I'm going to say Pin for now because I am an American.
Yeah.
She is incredible. So she out-qualified. So the way that the Academy works is like they do one qualifying session for both races. And basically like your fastest time, like your first fastest time is for the first race. And then your second fastest time is for the second race to determine the order. And she got pole position in both. And she got pole position by like 7/10.
Oh, wow.
Like, which is crazy. Like that's a lot. That's so she's incredibly fast. She won the first race like pretty easily. But then the second race, there was some drama because she crosses the line first. Checker flag comes out. But her team, she apparently didn't see the checker flag. She didn't know it was her last lap. The team didn't tell her she was done with the race. They didn't inform her. And apparently, I didn't know this because it's never come up. You cannot take the checkered flag twice. Like you can't basically like you race again. Like you can't. I think you have to like be within a certain like delta. Like you can't basically do another fast lap twice. But she took the checkered flag 2 times, which then resulted.
But can't they just not? Like, can't they just ignore the second one?
No, because the point is like you can't be like racing after you've already finished the race.
No one told her.
And I know. And so she got a 20-second time penalty. So they had to forego. And they went through the whole ceremony of like the podium. She got first.
That is my biggest gripe with all of this whole motorsport.
Yeah.
Know about the penalties before these people get trophies.
Yeah. And Lewis Hamilton actually showed up for the podium celebration of course, which was great. And he, was there to celebrate with her. And then they were like, just kidding, you didn't win. I'm
excited to watch the race because I haven't yet.
Yeah, and it was just very strange, and I felt like it should not have been. I feel like it should have been a fine for the team.
Sure,
but like, come on, really? Like, this is ridiculous. But the person who did win, who got promoted from P2, who was also P2 in the first race, was Abby Pulling, she's a British driver. She's an an Alpine Academy driver.
Well, at least Alpine's getting something.
I know, literally, like this is the only, and people were like, this is the only way Alpine's ever like going to touch a race win the entire season. So that was cool. She's very, very, very talented. There's just so many great talented people. I should also add Leah Block, who's the Williams Academy driver, was on the Williams podcast with Alex and
nice.
Logan. So that was fun. Get to see her included. And she's like a rally driver. Her dad was a rally driver. He sadly passed away, but she's like never done single seater.
Oh, I didn't realize she had never done it before.
Yeah, before. And she like did very, very well for it being her first time in a single seater category. So
cool.
It was great. We're obviously going to be in Miami. And so, we're excited to watch them, see them.
Yeah, I'm excited.
And you should watch as well. And it was just, and with everything else happening and like
it's
the
nice.
garbage, it was just like, okay, at least we have this. But also, then there was also like, you have all this shit going on, and it felt also kind of like, I don't know, like it was also frustrating because it's like, okay, you have this like series going on. Yes, exactly. Also, did you see what Laura Winters said? For those who missed it, it's on her Instagram, but she's the F1 TV presenter. She had a great little message for International Women's Day. You should just go.
Yeah, I mean, that's the irony of all of this, isn't it?
Yeah, literally. People were like, so all these guys are going to be posting like, I love my mom, happy International Women's Day, which by the way, like that irritates me more than anything else. And people are like, when people ask people like, who's a woman who inspires you? And they all say their mother. I'm like, oh my God.
Well,
like,
I'm
of
also
course
like,
your mother inspires you.
But these women you talk about, like, they might be mothers too. Like, how would you feel? Because that's the thing. Like, some of these dudes are married or have daughters or, are close with their mothers. And it's like,
sisters.
What would you do if someone talked to your mother that way?
Yeah.
You'd punch them in the face.
Yeah.
So shut your mouth.
Yeah. Also, just like respect a woman for being a woman,
Retweet.
Anyway. Okay.
Do you call it re-exing now?
No. Fuck that.
I just didn't know what the jargon was now.
All right, let's get to our fan info.
Okay.
Fan?
Kind of vague because again, I feel like I was on the outside of a lot of stuff this week. But I just feel like it was nice, even though it feels frustrating that the women are responsible. The community was hot and like loud this
Speaking
week,
out.
and it was nice.
I agree.
And then just on a side, like I just am excited about some stuff we have coming up, and even though this sometimes feels like a dumpster fire, we're still having a good time.
Yeah, that's the other thing I wanted to say too, is because I feel like it can feel very defeating. You can feel like, why am I promoting this sport that doesn't seem to care about women or doesn't have a backbone, is corrupt, as we've said. But I feel like it's our responsibility now more than ever to like, we do have a platform, as small or whatever as it is, to like speak out about these things, to continue to like ask questions, to put these questions in people's minds, and to like demand change. And I think this is what happens, is these things happen and then people want you to like leave.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, we're going to actually stick around and keep talking about this, and you're not going to force us out, essentially. So yeah.
Tell them.
My fan is F1 Academy, despite the fact that they gave an idiotic penalty. But
that's what the FIA loves those.
Yeah. And I think it's great. And I'm excited to continue to watch that. Foe.
All the other.
Yeah. I just wrote
noise.
I'm tired. Like, I'm really tired.
I'm really fatigued.
And like, I was honestly kind of relieved when the race was over that we don't have a race this weekend. I was like, I just need a break. And like, how ironic. We were like, F1, come back. And now I'm like, oh my God, we have 22 I wanted the sport to come back. I didn't races.
I didn't have harassment allegations on my bingo card this year.
I'm tired.
And do you know what I have to do this week?
What?
I have to go to Vegas.
Yeah, that's true.
That's awful.
Not to party.
I'm going for work.
Not that going to party would be like super exciting anyway. I mean,
oh my God. I'm so fatigued and now I have to go to V for Vegas. Are you kidding?
Okay. So our drivers for the week, this past week were,
did we say our foes?
Yeah. We're tired. Our drivers for the week. So I had Yuki and Hannah had Lewis. So Lewis, I believe, qualified P8, which got Hannah 3 points, and then he came in 9th in the race, which got you 2 points. So you got 5 points from Lewis. Unfortunately, I don't know, good and bad. Yuki got qualified P9, which got me 2 points from that. Sorry, okay. I have the hiccups.
You hiccup so funny.
I breathe in.
Yeah.
But he didn't get points in the race. So I got 2 points. Hannah got 5. So you have currently 25 points and I only have 3.
Wow.
Do we want to draw right now for Australia or do we want to wait till next week's episode? Should we just do it now or wait?
I don't know.
Oh, and the other, I was going
to forget.
Yeah, well, and I was going to say too, I thought about this. I feel like we should, I know we said that we, our like only caveat was that we can't get the same driver 2 weeks in a row. I also think we can't get the same driver more than 2 times to ensure that we.
Is that, that's possible, right? Yeah.
No, we can get them 2 times. We can get them more than 2 times. Yeah. So at that point we'd have,
plenty of options.
Yeah. So go ahead, draw. This is for Australia. It'd be funny if we both got Australians.
I got Max.
Oh, fucking hell. Fuck. Watch me get someone terrible.
But I can only get him twice, so.
Charles Leclerc!
Woohoo!
Yes! Let's go. Okay, I feel better about that. Hopefully, actually, it could be terrible.
Worse. Yeah.
All right.
Hopefully, his appendix is fine or already out.
This will be Max's DNF week.
Imagine.
All right, Max and Charles. There we go. That's a nice little. That's a good like even. Well, it's not even, but it's a good.
It's as even as it
could be. Yeah. I guess
you'll get quality points.
Maybe, yeah, I mean, please, the wood legs. Okay, let me get to. I'm sorry, this episode's been chaotic as hell, but you all seem to enjoy it.
We're tired.
So,
it's fine.
Yeah, just cut us some slack.
They're fine.
No, I know. I'm saying cut us some slack.
They are.
Good. Well, you haven't read. You don't read our Instagram messages.
Stop being assholes.
Anyway, okay.
You don't want me in the DMs when you're being an asshole.
Yeah, you guys. I am.
Truly, I will throw hands virtually.
Yeah, Hannah's tough. You don't want to get on her bad side. Let me just say that.
Who's being an asshole?
No, well, I told you all the people that were
the
messaging
boys
us and stuff. Yeah. Okay, let's get to the questions. A lot of people thoughts on Ollie's dad.
I'm so glad you guys noticed. He's so cute.
He's probably, it's interesting.
And what is he? Doesn't have a racing background, does he? Is he like a CEO?
I have no idea.
Okay. Well, no, because I googled it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I didn't know if he had a history, and I didn't see one. I just saw founder, CEO, or something. I don't know, but
a lot of people saying Academy. Why did they make the call? Yeah, I don't know.
Because they're silly.
Yeah, they're being silly.
I mean, in fairness, like a rule's a rule. It's just annoying.
It's just a dumb rule.
Yeah,
and also,
this is also
like not. This is a it's a.
It's not like it's going to improve her time or anything, or like it's not like she got in anyone's way or cause whatever.
Yeah. Oh, and someone said, love the bangs. A lot of nice thoughts about the bangs. Thank you guys for making me feel better about impulsively cutting my bangs.
She does this every 2 years or so. So
yeah, it's when I'm having
an existential crisis. It's part of her grief journey.
Curious that I cut my bangs like April 2020 of COVID.
Yeah, no, it's not curious. It follows a very specific path of grief. She's like, I just needed a change. I'm like, yeah, because you're mourning.
Yeah, because I'm depressed. Not actually. Okay. Are Haas actually better without Gunter? I hate saying that, but
it's too soon. And
also, lest we not forget, Haas was good in quotes at the beginning of last year too. This is their MO. They're always strong at the start and then they falter throughout the season. So
they keep upgrading the car to be worse.
Yeah. So it's way too early to say.
I know I miss him.
100%. Does Lance hate his job? He seems miserable.
I'm pretty sure.
I don't know that he hates his job. I think he's in a very difficult position.
True.
But also because he wants to be, like, he doesn't have to be in that position.
Are we sure?
I don't know. Once again,
I don't know.
Once again, I am asking, give us the Yuki Fernando team. Give us the Yuki Fernando team. I think we'd all enjoy that. I would love for Lawrence Stroll to be Yuki's boss. There we go.
Scary.
Okay. Ollie needs a seat next year. I agree.
But let's just not forget Liam.
I think they're both going to get seats next year.
It's too bad there isn't an extra team in this sport.
Literally. do you think those new celebrity investors have regrets about Alpine?
No. Do you know why? Because they're not watching. So they don't know. Like, with respect, I don't think Travis knows what happened in the race yesterday.
Yeah, he's
Anthony Joshua knows because he was
Singapore
physically
currently.
there. Yeah. Also, what a doll.
I know.
He is so cute.
I know. I
and
love
Jason Kelsey's retirement.
I know.
And their tears.
Emotional week.
Love a boy who cries.
Yes. If you were a team principal and had one open seat for a rookie, would you go with Ollie Bearman or Liam Lawson? Great question.
That is a great question. And as of right now, I'd go with Liam because we've seen him more and saw his consistency.
Yes.
Like, I just have more data, if you will, on Liam.
Also, he was in a worse car.
Yeah.
That's a great point. Yeah. And also Liam's older. Liam's like 22, maybe 23, so a little bit more experienced. Ollie is obviously still quite young. I would go with Liam as well. But I
just have more data on him.
I think they're both going to get seats, and I think they're both going to get seats, and I think we'll see them. So no need to fret. Somebody asks, are you guys introverts or extroverts? You're an extrovert.
Yes and no. I mean, I feel like because sometimes I feel like being an extrovert gets confused with being outgoing. Like
Oh, totally.
Yeah. And like I can have moments of, isn't an ambivert a thing?
Yeah.
I feel more that because most of the time, like I need time to decompress. Like anytime we do something, like if we're traveling or something, we need at least an hour between activities to sit and scroll or sit and do nothing. But also like going and like spending time with friends I find refreshing. But I also don't know that that's like I don't go to a club and feel like fulfilled. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or like
but
like
do you get your
crowd.
energy from being around people or being by yourself?
It depends.
Okay, so probably you're an ambivert.
I'm
It's interesting because I feel a textbook introvert the way that I feel, but a lot of people who like maybe just gotten to know me or like know me but not super well are always shocked when I say that because they're like, you seem like, which I don't even really believe fully.
Oh no, I know that you're an introvert because I've known you for 10 years, but it still doesn't make sense to me.
Because again, people think introvert means shy or means quiet or something. And I'm definitely not quiet necessarily. I'm more probably reserved, but I like, and the way that I know that I am is it's like an overstimulation.
Yeah.
Like we've had this, like when we go on trips and stuff like that, I just like,
I kind
of shut down.
Yeah, and she needs a snack and a rest.
And I can't keep going. Like and it's honestly it's like the proximity to people and human beings. I felt this when we were in Vegas, when I was when we were in college. It's just like the constant like people and stuff. It's like I
can almost like I can watch it start happening to you.
Yes. And I just and I hit the wall
that
and I
gotta
like,
get out of there.
I need to be alone. I need to be by myself. I need to just like not be around people. It's just a weird, and I love being alone. Like I genuinely,
I like it too.
I love it. And I know there's a lot of people who don't like it, but I really, really enjoy it.
Big fan.
I guess we'll end on that question.
Okay.
Anything else to add?
Do better.
But also I want to say thank you to the people
to anyone who's listening.
I know. To the men out there.
Yeah, that was a blanket do better for people who probably don't actually listen to this podcast.
Yeah, F1 drivers, Christian Horner, FIA, F1 in general. But I do want to say thank you to everyone who reached out to us over the last week, who just sent like nice messages, who thanked us for what we said last week or on social media, or just being very kind. We really appreciate it. We try to do what we can with the space and platform we have, but we're just one drop in the bucket. So, it takes all of us to make change. But as you said, we have, great fun things ahead. We're going to keep having fun and having a good time with the sport as much as we can. And we hope you guys do as well and stick around for the journey. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm going to take this opportunity to get us some money. And I also, I'm going to say this too, because now that we've kind of determined Daniel's in the doghouse, I think we need to reclaim the word enchanté for ourselves.
We are.
And we have, but enchanté is ours now. Not legally, because he has the legal rights to it, but it is our word.
Yeah.
And it shall forever, henceforth, be fan behavior's word. So on that note.
You've heard it here first. Enchanté.